Welcome to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. In this segment, Pat provides a strong, targeted, and well-thought marketing starter kit for creatives based on her copious experience and skills. She also describes the difference between selling and marketing. All good stuff. Very helpful stuff, too. Hey, Pat.
Yes, James.
Well, I was just out at the amateur rocketry and joke proving grounds for the Gifted Underachievers Clubhouse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and me and Randi and Rand Y were testing a new joke.
Okay. Wow. I can't wait to hear.
Yep, and so it's not new to the world, but it's new to us, and it did make me giggle. But did you hear about the dyslexic insomniac agnostic who lay awake all night wondering if there was a dog?
Boom, boom.
Boom. All right, so that's
Dyslexic, insomniac, agnostic. That's cute.
Yeah. So that's it from the Gifted Underachievers amateur rocketry and joke proving grounds.
Yes, I haven't been out there in a long time. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, the field's a little dried up.
Really?
Yeah, we need to get the sprinkler system back up and running. But
Oh, okay. Maybe we should bring John back in too, John Irving.
yeah,
He's been out there all summer.
He's good with a hose, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's now October and
Yeah.
his bucket's probably full. So, okay, put it on the list.
Well, didn't we give him a leaky bucket?
No. Oh, we gave him one stuffed with hemp or something.
Yeah.
Okay. The good joke. I love it. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. But that's not what we wanted to talk about.
Oh,
We had this whole marketing discussion.
yeah.
Should I let you start?
Oh,
Because it
sure. Yeah.
began with.
Okay. Well, I have been in a couple of summer's over, and over the course of the summer, I was at a couple of different types of fairs, like I was at art fair, I was at a couple of agricultural fairs, which do include art, especially the fabric arts and photography
Yep.
and stuff like that. So, and what I noticed, I guess part of it was, the food aspect. There was a guy with a French fry truck, and we were talking about his schedule. And after, he was at this particular fair for a long day, a long weekend, 4 days, and then he was going to be, and he listed off the next three things that were happening in the coming 30 days, and they were all over the place. And yeah, he's got a truck, but he's also he's marketing the business. He's on his own signs showing somebody eating the French fries. He's like, why pay a model? So the guy is very savvy. His French fries were incredibly good, really hot and salty and delicious. But I started thinking too about artists who of all kinds who so I mean creative people who go from fair to fair to fair to sell their, let's say, pottery or books or visual art or flowers, and the amount, their jewelry, the amount of time that it takes to plan out your trajectory for this rotation of fairs, the amount of money it takes to book tables. It can be $300 or $150, or it can be more.
Yep.
Um, it extends into the clothing design industry. I was talking about wedding fairs and what a huge outlay of cash they can be for the person displaying. And then you're at a table, and it's an opportunity really to figure out what to do and what not to do. When you're in one of those situations, because you're sitting there all day and you're looking at other booths and seeing how busy they get, booth being shorthand. In some places it's just a table, other places there's a, back wall and stuff like that. Um, but what do you bring? How many sales do you make? What if you're there all day and you don't make any sales? How do you observe, analyze, and maybe pivot, or even pull back and make the assessment, is this a marketing thing that is worthwhile for me?
Right.
And if so, what is worthwhile about it?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about. So marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, like you said, there's the people who kind of noodle around with something and think, oh, I'll spend $300 to have a table booth. because I've got this thing and I think they're pretty good and I'll bring them and I'll sell a bunch, right? It'll be great. And then they get there and they are disabused of that notion right away. And it really requires way more preparation and thinking. You mentioned something about the wedding dress, which I would have never thought about, which is you're going to have people who want to try these wedding dresses on, so they've got to have a place where they can try them on, where they're
Mhm.
not walking away and walking off with them. But also their kids need something to do, so you've got to have coloring books, and so there's just all these considerations that go into this marketing.
Yeah, this form of marketing, event marketing, basically. And I think anybody who's ever done a table at in any situation, uh, whether they come in with inflated, expectations of what they're going to sell or not, they soon become
Mhm.
extremely realistic. If they're lucky, they become realistic by noon their first day, and they
Right.
figure out how to make it work for them because they
Yeah.
have the golden opportunity to observe all these other people and see what's attracting the crowd to
Mhm.
booths. Are they even at the right fair? There's those
Yeah.
considerations to be made. Like I worked as a contractor for the government of Canada, and they don't go to every fair. Their mandate means that they go to certain large trade shows and fairs, and agricultural fairs is one of those types.
Yeah.
Um, but there's got to be some sense to it. And so that led us to talk about the idea of a sort of a starter kit for marketing your creative stuff. The
Hmm.
concepts or actions that you it would behoove a creative person to think about and accept needing to either do or think about if they're going to be able to make a living or a partial living from their creative work.
Yeah. And it's part of this just reality that there's this ideal of the creative life where that's all you're doing is being creative,
Yeah.
right? And you can kind of lose sight of the fact or not anticipate that you're going to have to develop a lot of other skills too.
Hmm.
And being able to market and understand what that means for you,
Yeah.
and what you're trying to get out into the world. I mean, there are definitely plenty of people who are like, look, I just want to create what I want to create because I enjoy it. It's the planting of the flower for the planting of the flower kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. And so, they're going to do whatever with it. But then there's the people who are like, no, I want this to be my life. I want to earn a living
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
And which is you and I and other mid-level creatives that we're trying to reach out to and speak to, you
Hmm.
know. And so I think, yeah, this marketing piece can be really, really, really hard because you have your own psychology, which maybe says, oh, don't, speak of yourself in certain ways, or you're like, marketing is not a thing that decent people do, or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then down to like, nobody's born knowing how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
It's a learned skill. Yeah. So as you know, I had a previous career
Yep.
in a very audience focused industry, which is international trade shows and conferences.
Hmm.
And yes, I worked for different types of organizations, but I have I have what I would consider not related to just trade fairs, but for marketing your creative stuff, period. I have what I would consider sort of the bones of a starter kit, um,
Oh,
which I'd like to
okay.
share with you.
I'd love it. I'd love it.
Okay.
And just a little preface here. I have always, always, always been impressed by your business skill
Oh, thank you.
because you really do, see the business and the creative as two things that are separate but unified, right? And you do
Right.
very, very well. But and my background just has never included any kind of marketing. So for me, even at this mid-level, I'm still trying to piece these things together. So this
Yeah.
is good.
Well, so am I, but here's some stuff that came to mind when we were started talking about art fairs, So that's a form of what they call event marketing, or they used to call it that.
Uh-huh.
And that's marketing through events, basically. But there's, for anything you're thinking about, creative product you're thinking about selling, it doesn't have to be tangible, but
Mhm.
usually let's just think about it tangibly. I would say I have seven things, actually six things
Okay.
that are aimed at a seventh. So one of them is um, budgeting and return on investment. Figure out how much you're going to spend doing what you want to do. And you won't know your return on investment sometimes until you actually do it. So understand that part of your budget is just research. And, let's say you spend 300 bucks on the table and you don't make any sales, your return on investment was zero. In fact, it's a negative return on investment, except that you learned something.
Right. Right.
So that was the first one, budgeting and return on
So
investment to consider.
do you mind if I
Really-
break in on
No, go ahead.
these? So my question there from this mid-level perspective, right? So we've set up the booth. We've already done the initial, we've had that experience. And so I think it seems to me that, you know, there's a realism to what the budget is going to require, and it's
Mhm.
generally going to be a bit more than what people would generally anticipate, perhaps. Does that sound about like what you're getting at?
I don't know if you can say generally about any of these, but I
Okay.
guess you could. So by budgeting, I'm even talking about time budgeting. Like we do Gifted
Ah,
Underachievers as a creative collaboration. Initially, when we started talking about this, I said I have 5 hours a week. That's all I can spend on this. That's
mm-hmm,
doubled. My budget has doubled. I now spend 10 hours a week on this podcast.
mm-hmm,
Um, Sometimes more, hardly ever less. And that's a form of budgeting, right? My return on
mm-hmm,
investment so far has been in intangibles. It hasn't been in money because we're not monetizing. So
mm-hmm.
when I say budgeting, I'm not just talking about money.
Okay. Thank good.
Supplies, materials, time, all of that stuff. Return on investment, it can be intangible. These are very broad
Mm-hmm,
concepts. So the
mm-hmm.
second one, these are not in any particular order, unfortunately. Road testing, very important.
Oh,
Don't forget that part. Like you've got to try it before you know if it's going to work. You can do all the studies you want, but if you're a mid-level creative person, you don't have unlimited time to imagine scenarios and never do them. You've got to
right,
actually do them. Go to a reading, see
right.
how many people show up, for somebody who's, say, got a book they're trying to launch.
Yeah, and talk to if you go to a reading, talk to the person, say, how hard was it to get this crowd?
Yeah, yeah,
What did you
exactly. Well, I
what
mean,
did
I've gotten the crowd at every reading I've ever done. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah, what
relying
did
on a
the
publisher to get the
bookstore
crowd.
what did the bookstore do
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
what,
Oh, yeah. They provide the menu, the setup and stuff. So they're not doing nothing, but honestly, every reading I've done, the majority of the people there have been because I personally invited them and asked them to come.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's one. Another one is, so that was road testing. Before that was budgeting and return on investment in the broad sense. Road testing kind of leads me to the community aspect.
Mm,
I don't love the word networking. I don't hate it. It's just a descriptor, but you have to be prepared to talk and form alliances and have collaborations with people in order to further your own art beyond the silo that you're in. You just need to be
mhm,
able to communicate with other people. It's pretty rare for a genius work to be so good, like a J.D. Salinger who couldn't be
mhm.
fucked with people. He has his personal people and he has his writing, but he never had to do any kind of promotion, as far as I'm
I,
aware.
yeah,
It,
what a privilege to be
yeah.
him.
And that's because he's not mid-level. He was much higher. So be aware of community and the idea about networking and collabs. Um, which brings me to so budgeting, road testing, community. Going outside your comfort zone would be the fourth one. You have to be prepared to do that. If you're uncomfortable with talking about your work, sending an email asking somebody to come to your reading or, your art fair, you are not going to be able to make even a partial living out of your stuff. You have to be able to
Right.
go outside your comfort zone. So
Yep.
that's the fourth one. Fifth, I would say consider the minimum viable product. We talked about that before. So if you've got a very large, interesting concept, but you haven't figured out how you're going to speak to an audience with it, take one aspect, slice of it, and make something there, and then see if anybody, see what the interest
Mhm.
level is. Whether you pitch a publication if you're a writer, or, put it up on Etsy. I've been noticing Juliana Brazil, who was one of our guests in 2024.
Mhm.
Gifted Achiever, and she's doing this daily drawing thing. I forget what it's called, but it's a Sketchtober or something like that. Every day in
Hmm.
October, she puts up a new sketch, and
Oh, wow.
her shit is getting so interesting and good, and it's each one is a little slice, of it's just she had to pick an idea and go with it. So it's not a comic strip, she's an illustrator, she
Hmm.
does do a strip, but it's more like it's it's the idea. It's like a New Yorker, comic, just the one
Yeah.
thing. And it's the last one I saw, I was just like, I want that. I think it was a rat in a martini glass with an olive for a hat. Anyway, because I love martinis. So consider the minimum viable product. Don't always be aiming for the biggest, most splashy thing you can make, whether it's a novel versus, a tiny little story or an illustrated thing
Uh-huh.
or whatever. But actually be okay with having things at different, even different price points. For example, I was at a thing
Yeah.
in the summer with a poet, and she had um, a traditionally published book of poems, a collection of poems that was 20 bucks, and she also had a couple of chapbooks that were 10 bucks each. So she could expose people to her poetry without them having to shell out for the bigger book. Um, okay, and then I would say this is the second to last, and this is one
Hmm.
of the most important, and it's related to road testing. It's observing, analyzing, and basically, I hate the word, but pivoting. So don't forget to notice everything. When you do something that if you're marketing something, don't just set it and forget it. Like, pay attention.
Right.
And if you go to a
Right.
trade show and you fail to sell anything, observe and analyze what's different about your booth than the booth with the lineup
Hmm.
outside it. It's
Yeah.
not just going to be your product. There's going to be other things that are different, and that
Hmm.
will allow you also to look at the things you're participating in and saying, well, is this writer I'm doing a reading with, do people who read their stuff also read my stuff? Maybe I should do a reading. If my book is a novel set on a train, maybe I should do a reading with somebody who wrote a book about trains. And then you
Right.
get the train
Right.
geeks buying your novel. So it's like observe, analyze, and
Hmm.
change what you need to change.
Hmm.
So those are the six and the seventh that these all lead to. All of these things, road testing, considering your minimum viable product, considering your community and your network, budgeting, return on investment, going outside your comfort zone, and observing, analyzing, and learning are aimed at identifying and connecting with your audience. That is the whole point of marketing. Because as you said when we were talking earlier, you don't know if you're going to actually make enough money from whatever marketing you're doing. But
Hmm.
the step that you're aiming towards is not the money part. It's the part before that, which is identifying and connecting with your audience. You do that and the money will follow.
Right. And this whole thing is, it's breaking it down into these components, but this understanding where your audience is and who your audience is can shift too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you might be surprised by who it is that wants to purchase,
Yeah.
anything, your book, your whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you might go, oh, I thought my audience was this group, but it's actually turning out that, yeah, they're sort of my audience, but this other group is really my audience because for what, and I need to understand why,
Yeah.
but they're the ones who are really, responding to what I'm putting out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's an iterative process and you do need that's why the observe and analyze part can't be ignored. You do need to do that thinking.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, what's the role of tech, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, technology got to do it. And I say got to do it not just because everybody else is doing it, but because it enables so much capacity.
Yeah. I would
Um,
say the role of tech is whatever you want it to be for the individual. It's a decision, right?
mhm. Yeah, and so in this 7 point marketing, what did you call it? Sort of
We
like a
called it a starter kit.
starter kit. Um, and it's not just for I think we want to be careful. It's not just for like going to art fairs and and those kinds of things. This is
Mhm.
really just okay, I'm a mid-level creative. I've been doing this for marketing, that for marketing. I'm feeling stuck. What can I do? And here's a really awesome list, uh, a primer starter kit to begin to rethink, to reframe.
Yeah.
I think.
It's conceptual in a way because, these all of these things are saying do these practical steps like so,
Mhm,
and you're right, it's not just about physically going to a location to sell your stuff, but think about these are high level concepts that will apply to any situation, whether it's virtual or in real life, whether it's international or local. You,
mhm,
I would suggest anybody think about those things as they're creating their plan to support
mhm.
themselves with their creative work.
Yeah. And there's a part of this that and this refers back to another thing that we were talking about much, before, but that this could now feel a little overwhelming,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And it's really just about small bites, but keep one step at a time and keep making those steps.
Yeah. Yeah. And so unsilo the individual marketing efforts you're doing.
Hmm.
Don't see them as, oh, I post on LinkedIn about the
Hmm.
course I'm about to give, on creative writing or whatever. So that's it. That's all I need to do. Take every single one of these big picture concepts and apply them to everything you do and see where they fit. If what you're doing doesn't achieve one of these things, then maybe you don't need to be doing it. Maybe it's the wrong thing to be doing.
Right. And so, thinking, you offer courses on developmental editing. Is that
Yeah, I have a few different types of courses, but that's one of them. Yeah.
so? You have these different courses, and I would assume that all seven of these are somehow incorporated into the marketing that you're doing for those courses, right?
They have been at every stage of developing the course. However, I don't actually sell the course through my own company. I offer it through a school. So
Right.
it's up to, the school actually, I
Okay.
mean, if I have an idea for marketing, I can use their email provider and their email list to make that idea. And but yes, generally speaking, yeah, going outside your comfort zone, budgeting and ROI, networking community, minimum viable product, road testing, observing, aimed at identifying, connecting with your audience, all of those apply
Yeah.
to every course.
And I would think even though there's a platform that people are accessing and that platform is, doing the literal actual marketing, if you have to design a course that people want,
Yeah,
right? And so you've got to consider all of this stuff.
yeah,
As part of it, I would think. And then the other thing, the one thing I do know about marketing is metrics, 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 right? You
yeah.
want to measure and it's part of the, observe piece, observe and analyze.
Yeah.
And are there any, I guess it's a little too generalized maybe to have really specific, but what are some metrics or how should people think about metrics?
Well, the biggest metric I've ever used is sales.
Yeah.
That's the only one I mean, I do pay attention to, who's taking the course, who is the audience, but I think I don't really see views or, hits or even
Mhm.
downloads as a big indicator of downloads of free stuff as a big indicator
Mhm.
of who's going to buy the
Yeah.
course. Well, I was very surprised that the most recent time I ran this course, um, n more than half the people who registered were not on the school's mailing list. They had found out about it through
Mhm.
another means.
Interesting. So one of
Yeah,
the things that I love about pay-per-click advertising and and sometimes I admittedly I can get lost in the minutia and whatever of that. But it does create a lot of data to
yeah,
be able to look at
yeah.
and make shifts and you can try, one ad that has red on yellow and another that has yellow on red and you can test all these different things and messaging and all that kind of stuff, which I really like.
Hmm.
But then again, maybe pay-per-clicks aren't the best marketing, but I really do think and agree that this observe and analyze and pivot is probably pretty critical because everything you're going to put out these, you're going to try something and you really need to be able to understand why did it work so I can replicate it, or why didn't it work so I can fix that broken piece, or understand that I need to do something very different.
Yeah, I mean, I would say these are all pivotal, or they're all
Yeah.
important. That's why they're the primer, because if you skip the road testing, or you
Mhm.
skip the budgeting and ROI, you're not going to have the full picture. I mean, this might be incomplete. I just came up with it as we were talking, but I feel like that neglecting any one of these aspects, including going outside your comfort zone, e- neglecting any of those is not, you're not fully understanding, the cost of marketing, which is it's not just time and it's not just money. It's also your energy and attention. And so
Mhm.
so I think with the pay-per-click stuff, that's not marketing. That's to me, that's sort of selling.
Okay,
It's different. It's like I can't even think of the right word for it. It's a part of marketing, but marketing is the overall strategy,
got it. And
not
that
the particular
advertising,
action. Yeah.
right? That advertising is one piece of that overall.
Advertising is one piece of a
Yeah,
strategy.
and
Yeah.
I would agree. If you don't do any of these seven things, you're minimizing your chances for success for sure.
Yeah, and success is just being able to make a living or a partial living. I mean, we're not saying you're going to get to the top of the list because there's so many other things. The basic whatever you're doing also has to be artistically attractive, but there's an audience for almost everything. That's the thing. So it's these are all the point of marketing is to find and connect with your audience, identify and connect
Mm.
with them.
Right. Yeah. And hopefully, I always think of these things as trying to hit a tipping point. Like
Mm,
that's,
yeah.
when I think about my own writing, like the stories and one thing and another, I think of it as I'm trying to build to where I can get to a tipping point where things happen more organically without me having to make them happen.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you know
that
what
makes
I mean?
sense.
Like word of mouth and
Yeah, you
those.
get invitations.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
people start reaching out to you as opposed to me trying to bounce against gatekeepers and that kind of thing. And it feels like this list is really about, it's a cycle
Hmm. It's
where you
iterative, yeah.
constantly are going through this cycle and revising and revising and revising and building and building and building and refining until to hopefully get to that tipping point where it goes from I don't think you ever don't do it, but yeah, more opportunities start coming
Yeah.
towards you as opposed to you. So,
Yeah, I think so. That's part of the ROI is, one of the things you would look at is not just money, but invitations to collaborate, invitations period, or
mhm.
so there would be money as part of your ROI, but there's also these intangibles, like the ROI for gifted underachievers has been that we've met some incredibly cool gifted achiever guests. We've had a lot of
Yeah,
fun unpacking the different stuff we talk about, and I've gotten smarter in my own creative processes.
yeah. Yeah, no, I was just about to say, the key ROI for gifted underachievers has been meeting these people who are
Yeah.
really fun and
Yeah.
really cool and doing really interesting things. And then the other is, yeah, hashing out these ideas, refining these ideas, and it's a practice of thinking about what do together, but also what we do individually and
Yeah.
how we get better at that.
Yeah.
And that's been really awesome. So yeah, don't just focus on the money. Focus on because these intangibles add up to creating more capacity, more money, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Awesome. Well done, Pat.
Thank you so much, James. Well done to you too. And I love your joke. Do you maybe go out to the joke ground and get another one?
Yeah, I will. I'll keep my eyes open. And if
Okay.
anybody knows where I got that joke from, please feel free to email or mention it in the chat page.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Gifted Underachievers, the podcast for mid-level creatives with delusional ambitions. If you're a marketer or have some positive experience as a creative marketing yourself and your creative works, we'd love to hear from you and possibly include you in an upcoming segment. Otherwise, we'd love to hear how we're doing, so please leave a comment, join our chat page, or send us an email at giftedunderachievers@substack.com. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and anywhere else you like to download your podcasts. And please, 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 please hit the share and or subscribe button. It really does help a lot. Thanks, and have an awesome day.